Okay, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm going to talk about creating personalization rules from custom events in Sitecore AI. I'm Erica Stockwell-Alpert. I'm a senior support developer at Valier since 2016, and I'm a seven-time Sitecore Technology MVP. For tonight's agenda, I'm going to start by covering what personalization is, how to create custom events, what's new or coming soon in Sitecore AI, testing personalization rules with user profiles, and things that you should know before moving forward. So first of all, what is personalization? Personalization is the practice of tailoring experiences, content, and interactions to individual users based on their preferences, behaviors, and data. Personalization can entail showing different content for users based on static data, such as their country or state, or the time of the visit, or based on their activity on the site, such as page views and button clicks. Sitecore provides a large library of simple personalization rules right out of the box. You can track events in your code and create custom rules that utilize the event data in Sitecore AI. The event tracking code is very simple, and you can pass pretty much any information that you want in the event extension data. For example, we have a site that uses an API to get the user's zip code, and we pass the zip code in a custom event named user zip code captured. We're then able to use this zip code data in custom personalization rules in Sitecore AI. You can use this to enrich page view data, which already exists with additional data, or create custom events. And you can do this on page view, button clicks, tool interactions, etc. So what's actually new? Because personalization has been around for years now in various iterations. Um, the concept of personalization is nothing new, and personalization was available in Sitecore XP, the composable personalize. Being able to personalize content is not new, but there are some changes coming to the way that developers create custom personalization rules, and there's some new features coming that are very exciting. What I'm about to share with you is not yet publicly available, but is part of a phased rollout and is coming soon. The new features include the Profiles and Audiences dashboard, native Sitecore AI custom personalization rules, rule testing, and affinities. The new Profiles dashboard is in the performance section of the Sitecore portal, and it shows you live users as well as previous users. You can click on a user in the right side panel to open up their profile or drill into a location to open a user from a specific location. I love this dashboard because it's really cool. It shows things in real time, so I can open up a session on my site, browse through it, and then when I open up the profiles dashboard, I'll see my session and I can see the events updating. Well, not exactly in real time, but on refresh, I can see all of the latest events from my profile that I've generated. When you open up one of these user profiles, you can see detailed data on their behavior as well as their affinities, which I'll get to later. But as a developer, here's the part that I like best. When you click on the three dots in the top right, you can see the entire user profile JSON object. This is super helpful and necessary for me as a developer because if you're going to be writing custom personalization rules, you need to know how that profile object is formatted. So that with this, you can see exactly what data currently exists so that you can know what to test for. And one thing to be aware of is that the data object is not the same as it was in Personalize. Um, some of the property names have changed. So if you're migrating custom rules from Personalize into Sitecore AI, you'll need to edit them and you'll want to use the inspector so that you can see the new property names. I can also see the data from all of my custom events. So Here, we can see under events, we've got an event with custom data. Um, this is a user zip code captured event, so it's an entirely custom event. Um, and in the extension data, we've got the user zip code. Previously, custom personalization rules could only be made if you had a personalized license, and they were managed externally to the Sitecore portal in Personalize. For the past few years, Sitecore was pushing composable commerce to give clients flexibility. But with the announcement of Sitecore AI at last year's symposium, they announced that they're consolidating all their products into one AI native SaaS product. This is enabling more intelligent cooperation between features. And in my opinion, the new personalization process is a lot more intuitive and easy than going through Personalize. When you create a custom personalization rule, you'll see a window where you enter your JavaScript, configure the parameters, and a window with an AI code assistant. There's also a test button. So you make sure to test your rules before you publish them, because once it's published, it cannot be edited. That means you can always delete it and make a new rule, but if you end up having to change anything, you'll have to delete it and create a new one, which is really annoying if you're just going through testing and various iterations trying to make small changes. It's better to do thorough testing and make sure that it's complete before you publish it if you don't want to have to just delete it and make a new rule and then reapply it to all of your pages. To test your rule, you need to first set the condition parameters. The parameters are what you would be using when you add the rule to your page. So for example, in this case, the parameter would be when the user's zip code is 02293. You'll want to enter parameters that you know should trigger the rule. That's where that previous inspector page comes in handy again, because as I showed, you can check what data actually exists. And I was able to see that on my profile object, I had an event where the zip code was 02293. So if I use that zip code in my rule, it should return true if the rule is configured properly. So here's where you set the condition parameters. Then you'll need to load a user profile to test against. You'll need to look up a profile and grab the profile ID, which you can see in both the purple info box and in the inspect JSON that I previously showed. This all comes from that profiles dashboard page. That ID goes into the profile ID bar, and then you can load up all of their profile data. You can also generate a profile, which uses AI to generate a profile object based on your request. But I prefer to test against real data. This thing is really cool, though. It's helpful if you don't have a real profile or you can't find one that has the data you want to test against, like a user from a specific country. However, from my experience, it doesn't seem to be able to reliably format custom event data correctly. So be careful with it and don't rely on it for testing custom events. Make sure that the data object actually matches what you would be getting from your code. It is, however, very good for testing affinities. Once you've set the parameters and loaded that profile, you can click Run Test and it will show you the results. If it succeeds, it will show true. If it doesn't, it will show false. And if it's not working as expected, like it gave me a false, even though I put in a zip code that should return true and trigger the personalization rule, you can add console logs to your script, and all of those logs will show up here. So in Sitecore AI, affinities are a new feature that capture what each visitor is interested in based on the pages they view on your site. They translate browsing behavior into preference signals for topics, brands, and content types, helping you answer a key question. What is this visitor most interested in right now? I didn't write that. That's taken from the Sitecore documentation. These interests are expressed as affinity scores, which indicate how strongly a visitor is interested in specific topics. Once you've set up affinities for your site, Sitecore AI automatically calculates affinity scores based on the pages a visitor views. During a session, scores are updated in near real time as the visitor navigates the site. So this allows affinities to reflect changes in interest as they happen. For example, if a visitor repeatedly views pages related to a specific category, such as SUVs, their affinity score for that category increases. If they then start exploring different categories like hybrid or electric, their scores adjust to reflect those new interests. Because affinity scores update during the session, Sitecore AI can use them to tailor content and experiences while the visitor is still browsing. When the session ends, affinity scores are saved to the visitor's profile. These scores are retained for up to 30 days and recalculated in future sessions based on new behavior. You can then use these scores to define personalization conditions based on a visitor's interest. For example, targeting content based on their highest affinity score, which is a personalization rule that is included out of the box. You can also create whatever custom personalization rules you want, such as personalization rules for specific affinities or specific combinations of affinities, for custom score thresholds. It's really flexible and um, it's incredibly simple to set up because affinities are just plain text key value pairs that are manually added to each page. It's a lot like setting a taxonomy on your pages. Um, Except you don't need to wire up any custom code and you don't need to worry about tracking it in analytics yourself. Sitecore does all of that for you, and it does all of the affinity scoring behind the scenes for you. You can have multiple affinities for one key as well. So if you have an affinity name of, say, topic, you can put multiple topics on a page separated by commas. If you click on the site root in this page in the portal, you can see all of the affinities that are in use on the site and what page they are on, which is really helpful for keeping track of what affinities you have and where. Once you've set up your affinities, you can use the top affinity rule, which I already discussed. So if you're currently using Personalize, there's a few things that you'll want to know before the switch. All out-of-the-box personalization rules can be automatically migrated. This is done on Sitecore's end, and it takes about 15 minutes. We recently had early access for one of our internal sites um, turned on so that we switched from using personalized to using the new Sitecore AI native personalization. Um, we initially discovered when we did the switch that all of our personalization rules were gone. So that triggered a frantic communication with Sitecore. But then as it turned out, there was a simple way for them to migrate all of the previous personalization rules. We just had to ask. So make sure to discuss that and plan for that in your switch over. And also keep in mind that custom personalization rules will not be migrated. All of the out of the box personalization rules transferred over along with the pages that they were applied to, but our custom rules, such as that zip code rule, had to be recreated in Sitecore AI and some of the JavaScript rewritten to reflect the new data object. You can also use that AI assistant in the personalization rules page to help you update your code. It's super helpful, and I like that feature a lot. So that's what's coming new for Personalize and Sitecore. Any questions?
Affinities, very cool. And it was like three or four times when I had a question and then you answered it like the next slide. So that was neat. Like affinities and like do affinities last in the next session? She's got that. She's got that. How does and I remember the old version of this back in the well, it's still current, I guess, in XP, where you got into like sending individual point values. It looks like all that math is taken away. Do you have any idea? Does it just like I hit a page that's on trucks and I just get a point for trucks?
So
Or
it seems like, from what I can tell now, say we have like, yeah, like you said, like trucks, SUVs, hybrids. And if I'm new to the site and the first page that I go to is trucks, then I will have an affinity score of 1 for trucks and just no score for anything else. So then if I go to the home page, and there's a personalization rule that's like, if top affinity score is trucks, show this. I will see like, buy a truck now, browse our trucks. Or also if there's a rule that's like, if affinity score for trucks is greater than zero point 0.5, show why not browse our trucks. That would be a custom one that you could make, but a pretty simple one. And then if I were to go to the hybrid page, I would guess that my affinity score would be zero point 0.5 for each. But if I spend like a lot more time clicking around trucks pages, like all of the math is black box. But my understanding is that it tries to reflect like what you're most interested in. So the more pages you click with one affinity, the higher your score will be for that affinity.
got it. And is your entire affinity picture is that one, or are we just using that as an example?
I would assume so, given that.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm not sure. And then
Okay.
you can have multiple different types of affinities. So like car type would be one affinity. So your personalization rule would be like, where the highest affinity for car type is trucks,
Yep.
show this. But then you could have a separate affinity that's like um make or model, which
Right.
is entirely different. So, but like a page could trigger multiple different affinities.
I want to say profile keys, but that's old. But yeah, no, I get the concept. Super
It
cool.
is,
And
yeah.
glad it looks like a lot of they're taking away a lot of the pain.
Mhm.
That seemed to be the top takeaway there is that it was just an easier tool to work with and personalize. Uh, Erica?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I never really liked the experience of personalized personally, but this seems pretty straightforward. It just makes a lot more sense to have it all integrated in the same place.
Andrew,
I've,
look, you had something?
yeah, I have a question. This is another comparison to profile cards or profile keys or persona or pattern cards, all of those different things we had in XP. But I guess, Erica, did you work with pattern cards or profile cards in XP before?
Not really.
Okay. So we had this thing, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but basically there was for some affinities, you might want them to expire faster than others. And I'm wondering if there is an ability to set that for things that are
Kind of
maybe
a
don't want in the history. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dan?
like a decay rate.
Decay rate is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but that's a really interesting idea that I haven't seen anything about that, but I feel like that would be good feedback for Sitecore.
I'm not
Um,
sure because I'm thinking like, yeah, there's all kinds of things you could do that were really complicated and made it really hard to wrap your brain around. And the KISS principle seems to have been applied here. But can you think, Andrew, of a situation where that would be like it really important to have that feature?
Yeah, I used to teach a marketing class. I have an example on lined
Oh,
up. It's like if you
awesome. Go
have
for it. Yeah.
customers who are shopping, if you're shopping for a bed, and you're spending all your time on the website looking at beds, and then all of a sudden I
Mm.
don't look at beds for 3 weeks, I've probably found a bed and I have purchased that bed, and I'm not interested in beds anymore. But if I'm looking at science fiction books, I am probably going to be interested in science fiction months or years after I make a science
Interesting.
fiction purchase because it's like one of those long-term things. So
That's a great example. I can't stand when I buy, like, I need one thing. Like, I need a pair of boots. I bought the pair of boots, and now I'm getting ads for boots for like 3 months.
It's really
And your partner is seeing boot ads in their Facebook too,
Yep.
yeah,
all,
100%.
all that happens.
My
That
favorite is when it happens by the same place you bought it's the problem, and they're still serving you ads for stuff that you already bought there. That one's
yeah, real nice improvement that it's like it just has the point system built in. You don't have to specify the range for every single value.
you don't have those little spider charts. Remember those?
yeah.
They
So
did
fun.
look cool.
They did look cool.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to someone at Sitecore and I said, like, why does everything start with a P? Patterns, profiles, personas. And he just looked at me and he said, at the office, we have a term for that, Copenhagen.
So this is really interesting because you've got me thinking about like how I would solve this scenario as a developer right now. And I don't know of any way to like have custom affinity deprecation for affinities, but for custom events, like you'd basically be like recreating like Sitecore's own affinity logic, but you could create a custom personalization rule where like you check because on my rules, I already have one rule that includes the created date on the event. So we've got a parameter on the rule for like where you can set how many days you want to go back. So we check like all events that were created in the last X days. And for that, we're just
Mm.
checking like if an event exists that has this taxonomy. But you could also create a rule that's like, look at all of our events, figure out like which one occurs the most, like for a certain event type, what's the most common value within the last 3 days or 30 days or however many days. So you could kind of, create your own like similar behavior. You lose obviously the value of the simplicity of affinities, but could do something simple with the not simple, similar with the custom events.